The city of Lyris Prime shone like a jewel under the twin suns. Tall spires of silver and glass reflected the bright light, while the streets below bustled with creatures from dozens of planets. It was the day of the Galactic Courtship Festival, the most important event for clans and families across the sector. Alliances were formed, mates chosen, and reputations made or broken. Ilara walked among the crowd, her heart heavy but her steps steady. She was a human among aliens, yet she had grown strong. Her training in diplomacy, combat, and survival had earned her respect. Still today, she carried hope in her chest, a hope that the festival might change her life in a way she had dreamed of. Her beta mate, Kyle, was waiting at the arena, surrounded by admirers. He was tall, with dark blue skin that shimmered under the sunlight, and eyes that seemed to pierce through anyone who dared challenge him. To most, he was the perfect choice. But to Ilara, he had always been proud, sometimes cruel, and never truly gentle. The arena was filled with thousands of spectators. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors filled the stands. They watched, eager to witness the unions and the dramas that always accompanied the festival. Ilara stepped onto the marble path, her dress flowing behind her, her heart steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Kyle's eyes found her instantly. A smile curled on his lips, but it was not a kind smile. It was sharp, confident, and mocking. He raised his hand to signal the crowd's attention. "People of Lyris Prime," he announced, his voice echoing across the arena. "I have chosen my mate for this year's festival." His gaze locked on Ilara, and she felt her stomach twist. I have chosen her sister," Kale said, pointing directly at Lyra, Ilara's younger sister. Lyra stepped forward, surprised and confused, her own cheeks flushing red. The crowd gasped. Whispers and murmurs spread like wildfire. Ilara's heart froze. She could feel the eyes of thousands of beings on her, their judgment, their curiosity, and their amusement. She had imagined many outcomes at this festival, but none had included this public rejection. Her beta had chosen her sister over her in front of everyone. Ilara took a deep breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face remained calm. She bowed her head politely and stepped back. She refused to show tears in public. Pride was all she had left in this moment. The whispers grew louder. Some admired her composure. Others laughed quietly at her misfortune. Kale strutted toward Lyra, proud and confident. He whispered something to her, and she looked unsure but nodded anyway. The crowd clapped politely, though many seemed curious about Ilara's reaction. Ilara turned away and walked toward the quiet edge of the arena. The cheers and whispers faded behind her. She needed space to think, to breathe, to understand how she could face the rest of the festival. Her chest felt tight, her vision blurred for a moment, but she forced herself to walk steadily. She passed through narrow streets lined with alien merchants and street performers, their colorful displays of light and sound adding a surreal contrast to the storm of emotions in her mind. She could hear Kyle's voice still echoing in her memory, laughing with friends, proud of his public display. As she walked, a presence followed her silently. From the shadows, tall, imposing, and regal, the Alpha King Veyron observed her. He was known across galaxies for his wisdom, strength, and fairness. Many feared him. Few had earned his attention. Yet here he was watching a human who had just faced public humiliation and yet held her head high. Veyron's piercing eyes did not judge her appearance, her human frailty, or her small size. Instead, he saw her courage, her resilience, and the strength that shone through even in her moment of despair. "Interesting," he murmured quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. Ilara found a quiet terrace overlooking the lower city. She leaned against the railing, closing her eyes for a moment. Memories of her childhood, her training, and her bond with her sister flashed through her mind. She had always admired Lyra's charm and beauty, but she knew her own value went beyond looks. She was strong, capable, and determined. Yet today she felt the sting of rejection more sharply than ever. A gentle voice broke the silence. "You carry yourself well even in shame," it said. Ilara opened her eyes and saw Veyron approaching, his presence commanding yet calm. She had heard tales of the Alpha King, but she had never expected to meet him face to face. Who are you?" she asked, wary. "I am Veyron," he replied, "Alpha King of the dominant clans." "And you are Ilara, are you not?" Ilara nodded, curious and cautious. "Yes, your majesty." "Why are you here?" "To observe," he said simply. I saw what happened in the arena. Your beta rejected you publicly, yet you did not break. Most would have cried, shouted, or retaliated. You walked away with dignity. Alara's eyes widened slightly. Few had ever noticed her inner strength so plainly. It is not easy, she admitted softly. Strength is not always visible in battle, Veyron said, his voice deep and calm. It is visible in moments like this, in moments when all seems lost and yet you do not give up. You may not know it, but you have captured my attention. Alara felt a strange mixture of fear and pride. She did not fully understand what he meant, but somehow it felt like hope had returned. I thank you, Your Majesty, she said. Veyron studied her carefully. The festival is only one day. But your qualities? Courage, intelligence, resilience? They are rare. I will be watching you, Alara, very closely. Alara felt a chill run down her spine. The weight of his words was immense. She did not yet realize how deeply this encounter would change her life. Meanwhile, the city was buzzing with the festival's chaos. Kale and Lyra were celebrated by some, mocked by others, and whispered about constantly. Yet there was a growing curiosity among the spectators. Who was the human who had walked away unbroken? Whispers began to spread, and tales of her composure and bravery reached the ears of many influential figures. Alara returned to the edge of the arena later, not to face Kale, but to observe from a distance. She saw the subtle glances, the hushed words, and the growing respect of some of the other clans. She realized that humiliation was only temporary, but courage and dignity left a lasting impression. As night fell over Lyra's prime, the city lights shimmered like stars on the ground. Alara walked alone along the balcony, reflecting on the events of the day. Though her heart ached, she felt something new, a spark of confidence, a sense that perhaps her worth was greater than the rejection she had faced. In the shadows above the city, Veyron watched silently. He had seen many beings in his long life, but humans were rare, unpredictable, and capable of extraordinary resilience. And this human had caught his attention in a way few others ever had. Part 1 closes with Alara standing on the balcony, the wind brushing her face, her eyes set on the distant horizon. She did not yet know what the future held, but one thing was clear. She would no longer be defined by rejection, humiliation, or the opinions of others. Somewhere in the galaxy, her courage had already begun to leave its mark, and the Alpha King's watchful eyes promised that her journey was only just beginning. The morning sun of Lyra's prime rose over the city like a promise. Alara had barely slept, her mind still replaying the events of the festival. The humiliation of Kale's public rejection weighed on her, but it was no longer sharp enough to break her. She felt a strange mixture of determination and curiosity, especially after the encounter with the Alpha King. Veyron the previous night. A message arrived shortly after sunrise, delivered by a small hovering drone. It was an invitation, or perhaps an order, from Veyron himself. He requested her presence at the palace, the grand seat of power for the alien clans. Alara paused for a moment, her heart beating faster. This could be a trap, she thought. But she also sensed that it was an opportunity, a chance to show her worth in a way that mattered. When she arrived, the palace stood tall and magnificent. Towers of polished metal reflected the sunlight, and gardens of alien flora surrounded the entrance, glowing faintly in colors no human eye had ever seen before. Guards, massive and imposing, stood silently at the gates, but they stepped aside for her without a word. Veyron awaited her in the main hall, his posture regal, his eyes sharp yet calm. The hall was vast, with high ceilings and floating lights that pulsed like gentle stars. He did not speak immediately. Instead, he studied her, as though weighing every detail of her being. Alara, he said finally, his deep voice filling the hall, you have impressed me. Most humans, when faced with rejection, crumble. You, however, have shown strength, dignity, and patience. These qualities are rare even among my own species. Alara nodded quietly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only tried to remain true to myself. Good, Veyron said. But being true to oneself is only part of what makes a person remarkable. Actions, decisions, and the ability to face challenges define true strength. Today, I will give you a chance to prove your worth further. He explained 3 tasks designed to test her intelligence, courage, and leadership. The first task would involve diplomacy, negotiating with a rival clan to prevent a territorial conflict. The second was a physical and strategic challenge, a simulated crisis where she would need to rescue hostages from a collapsing structure. The third was a personal test to confront her beta, Kale, and show her ability to rise above past grievances. Alara accepted the tasks without hesitation. She felt nervous, but the fire in her heart grew stronger with each step. She understood that this was more than a personal test. It was a chance to prove that humans could rise above prejudice and expectations. The first task began immediately. A small group from a neighboring clan had been caught in a dispute over trade routes. Alara's mission was to mediate, to find a peaceful solution before violence erupted. Using her knowledge of alien customs and her ability to speak clearly and calmly, she navigated tense conversations, understood hidden agendas, and offered solutions that satisfied all parties. By the end of the negotiation, the rival clan agreed to new terms, preventing a conflict that could have escalated into a full-scale war. Veyron observed silently from the side, nodding in approval. Alara felt a rush of pride. This was the first time her efforts had been recognized not as a human, but as a capable leader. The second task was more dangerous. The palace simulation room recreated a scenario of collapsing structures and trapped civilians. Robots and holographic creatures moved unpredictably, simulating real danger. Alara led a team through narrow corridors and unstable platforms. Her quick thinking and sharp instincts allowed her to guide her team, saving every simulated hostage. During the exercise, Kyle appeared unexpectedly. He had been sent by his own clan to observe her progress, likely expecting her to fail, but as he watched, he saw her courage, decisiveness, and the respect she commanded from others. His expression shifted from smug confidence to disbelief. The human he had humiliated was not weak. She was extraordinary. The final task brought her face to face with Kale in a ceremonial arena, similar to the one where she had been rejected. This time, however, the setting was different. There was no crowd of thousands, only the Alpha King, the observing council, and a few key witnesses. Kale stepped forward with arrogance, ready to belittle her once again. "You may have survived the trials, human," he said, "but no one truly deserves recognition over me." Alara did not flinch. She met his gaze steadily. "Recognition is earned, Kale. Not taken, not demanded. Today I will show you why that matters." The challenge was simple but symbolic. Both had to lead a team to complete a series of obstacles that tested strategy, coordination, and leadership. Kale relied on brute force and his natural strength. Alara relied on observation, intelligence, and inspiring her team to act together. As the trials progressed, it became clear who was more effective. Alara's team moved with precision, saving time, avoiding mistakes, and completing tasks efficiently. Kale struggled to control his team, growing frustrated and impatient. When the final obstacle fell to Alara's leadership, even Kale could not deny her success. Veyron stepped forward, his presence commanding silence. "Alara has proven herself," he announced. "Her courage, intellect, and determination are worthy of respect, admiration, and recognition. She is not only capable but exceptional. Therefore I, Veyron, Alpha King of the dominant clans, claim her as my mate." Alara felt a rush of shock, awe, and disbelief. She had never expected this outcome. Her heart pounded as she processed the reality of the moment. The Alpha King, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, had not only noticed her but honored her strength in a way that no one else ever had. Kale's expression darkened. He had expected to humiliate her further, yet he had been outshone by the very person he had rejected. Lyra, too, watched in silence, realizing that admiration and respect were not granted through beauty alone. The Palace Council bowed in acknowledgement of Veyron's declaration. Alara's team, who had supported her during the trials, cheered softly, proud of what she had accomplished. She looked at Veyron, who met her gaze with calm reassurance. "You have earned this, Alara," he said quietly. "Not because of my decision, but because of your own strength." Alara bowed her head slightly, humility mixing with pride. I will not disappoint you, Your Majesty," she said. "You will not need to," Veyron replied. "Your character already speaks louder than words ever could. Together we will face challenges that require courage, intelligence, and loyalty. You are ready." The days following the claim were filled with preparation and adjustment. Ilara learned more about the responsibilities of being alongside the Alpha King. She trained in advanced strategy, diplomatic affairs, and interstellar leadership. The citizens of Lyris Prime began to see her not as a rejected human, but as a remarkable figure whose qualities had transcended species. Kale retreated into silence, humbled but unable to fully accept his own failure. Lyra, meanwhile, grew protective and supportive of her sister, realizing that true greatness was earned through courage, not charm. Ilara walked through the palace gardens one evening, watching alien flowers glow under the starlight. Her thoughts drifted to the festival, to the humiliation, and to the unexpected path that had followed. She realized that rejection had not ended her story. It had begun a new chapter, one where her human qualities had reshaped how others saw her. Veyron joined her quietly, his presence a steady comfort. "You have done well, Ilara," he said softly. "Not just today, but in every challenge since. You are a human, yet you have proven that courage and strength know no species." Ilara smiled faintly. "I never imagined that this could happen. That my mistakes, my failures, my pain could lead to something greater. Strength often comes from hardship," Veyron replied. "And humans are remarkable at turning hardship into power." Ilara looked at the stars above, feeling a sense of belonging she had never felt before. She had been rejected, humiliated, and underestimated, but now she stood as a symbol of courage and human resilience. With the Alpha King by her side, she felt ready to face whatever the galaxy could throw at her. The story closed with Ilara standing tall beside Veyron, the twin suns setting behind the palace. The city of Lyris Prime sparkled below, a witness to her journey from rejection to recognition. No longer just a human among aliens, she had become a figure whose courage, intelligence, and dignity would inspire generations. Her beta had rejected her. The public had laughed, but the Alpha King had claimed her, and in that claim lay not just honor but a new destiny, one that Ilara was ready to embrace fully.